Welcome back to the BetCanada channel. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd, and we're going to continue with our AFC West previews, and we are going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, at any given time, if you had said, have the Las Vegas Raiders had a pretty good offseason? I think everybody would agree with that. But you look at what the Raiders have done, and bringing in head coach Pete Carroll, not a bad move. Bringing in veteran quarterback Geno Smith, not a bad move. But the problem I'm seeing here for the Raiders is, yes, the team will be improved in 2025, but at what level of improvement are the Raiders truly going to be? Geno Smith is the oldest starting quarterback in this division. Pete Carroll is the oldest head coach within this division. You don't have a lengthy run with either Pete Carroll or Geno Smith. You were already behind teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. You were already behind teams like the Los Angeles Chargers. You were already behind teams like the Denver Broncos. Now, I can't argue drafting Ashton Genty in the first round like the Las Vegas Raiders did. Great player, fabulous collegiate career. But this team was 4 and 13 in 2024. Austin Genty alone is not going to change that. You brought in one offensive line addition, Alex Kappa, not a terrible guard by any means whatsoever, but is all of a sudden not going to hopefully have Ashton Genty give you 1,400 yards of rushing, which you would anticipate out of a player who was drafted as high as Ashton Genty was. There is a lot of pressure on the Raiders running back. The thing that's going to add even more pressure to the rookie running back is looking at this Raiders wide receiver room. Jacoby Myers has always been a pretty steady player. He's not putting the fear of God into any defensive coordinator or into any secondary. Trey Tucker is not a terrible role player, but again, he is not putting the fear of God into any defensive secondary or into any defensive coordinator. I do like the youth in the Raiders wide receiver room. Dante Thornton Jr., Al Davis probably made this pick from above. You want to talk about a prototypical Al Davis wide receiver? Dante Thornton Jr. is just that. Big, tall, fast, and accelerates in the deep game. That reeks of the Al Davis type. Jack Beck was probably one of the more fun stories to follow during the 2025 draft process. As we all know, unfortunately, his brother passed in that terrible incident down in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. And Beck just rose from the difficulties of that entire situation. Played fantastic in the Senior Bowl, crushed every opportunity that came his way during the draft process. I think the future of the Raiders wide receiver room looks pretty good. Also added Tommy Millow, wide receiver as well. Now, normally drafting 3 wide receivers in one draft class usually tells you everything you need to know about the current state of wide receivers on any team. And while these 3 are the future of the Raiders wide receiver room, it is hard to believe that each and every one of them is going to hit the ground running right out of the gate. Now, Geno Smith went to Seattle, found himself, found his game, and became a really solid quarterback for the Seahawks. And of course, this started with Pete Carroll. Geno can engineer this offense, highlighted, of course, by tight end Brock Bowers, who was just an absolute beast as a rookie out of the University of Georgia. You have Mike Meyer if you want to go with these 2 tight end sets. There is some talent there to be worked with the Raiders, albeit the offensive skill talent is nowhere near on par with the Chargers, the Chiefs, and of course, the Broncos. So it's going to be tough sledding for Geno Smith. And this is a team that is also going to play the entire NFC East. This team is going to play the entire AFC South. It is not going to be very easy for the Las Vegas Raiders. The offense is improved, but as far as looking at level of improvement, when you're looking at the rest of the peers within their AFC West division, it's falling, and it's falling well below the standard of what that division is currently playing at. I am Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you for tuning into this video. We covered the AFC West in its entirety. In our next video, we will start to transition to the NFC North. Now, I look at the Raiders defense, and as much as I have questions about the Las Vegas Raiders offense, I probably have more questions about the Las Vegas Raiders defense. Max Crosby is one of the top edges in the entire NFL. And Max Crosby probably right now is the heart and soul of this Raiders franchise. Great player, great motor, great pass rusher, doesn't come off the field. Max Crosby was a mid-round pick that the Las Vegas Raiders absolutely crushed. Max has been a fantastic player for them. The second best defensive player on that line may be Christian Wilkins, a big free agent signing by the Raiders that has never paid the dividends that they certainly were hoping it was going to. The linebacker room, Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, these aren't terrible players. Devin White, Tommy Eichenberg. I don't know how this all works, though, because between all of these linebackers, none are essentially the elite of the elite. If this goes well for the Raiders, you get Pratt on the field and you get Devin White's athletic ability on the field. And maybe that linebacker duo hopes to give you what you think you might need to compete in this division. The secondary, Jeremy Chin was brought in free agency. Don't really have an issue with that move. I think Jeremy Chin is a solid NFL player. But when I am talking about a strong safety as the first person I'm going to mention of a given secondary, that's probably telling you the story. Slated right now as first stringers, Eric Stokes, a flameout from Green Bay. Darian Porter, a third round selection, is actually a guy I really like. But when we're talking about a third round selection at the cornerback position slated to start from day one, that probably tells you that there are issues within that secondary. Darnay Holmes as the nickelback again came over in free agency from San Francisco 2 years ago. Didn't really pay anything off like they were hoping for right away. A player I like on this in this secondary, and he got basically baptized by fire last year as a rookie for the Las Vegas Raiders. And that is Cameron Richardson. Long, lean, fast, but he got torched as a rookie. Does he take that and up his game in 2025, or does he end up going the reserve way? The Raiders probably got to make Richardson a priority. He has everything you're looking for to be a shutdown cornerback within the NFL. He needs to get over the rookie struggles, but if he can tap into that ability and translate it into performance, that is a big, big win for this Raiders defense. Lonnie Johnson, reserve safety, certainly been a journeyman within this league and has been a productive one at that. Jakarian Bennett, a smaller but athletic guy in that secondary. This is now year 3. You're starting to get this sense here with the Raiders. The sense is development, which was probably the why and the reason you brought in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll can challenge, can motivate, can get the best out of talent. And that makes sense as to why the Raiders made the move they did to bring Pete in. And Geno Smith was just basically allowing Pete to have his quarterback. Now, again, I don't think what the Raiders did overall are bad moves, but you have to weigh this team against its equals. And unfortunately, all 3 of its equals were playoff teams last year. Again, the Raiders only won 4 games in 2024. In addition to playing Kansas City twice, the Chargers twice, the Broncos twice, they have to play the entire NFC East and they have to play the entire AFC South. You would think normally last place teams get an easy schedule. It's certainly not looking that way for the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders will be an overall improved football team in 2025. and most likely will win more than the 4 games they did in 2024. But this offseason and what the Raiders have done have not gotten them any closer to the postseason. So, how much longer does this go on with Pete Carroll? When do they actually find their face of the Las Vegas Raiders franchise quarterback? All to be determined. Again, Raiders are better. It just won't show that much in 2025. Appreciate you all for watching us here on the Bet Canada channel. I am Jeff Lloyd. YouTube thinks you will love this video, as do we. Make sure you check out all the videos on the NFC East, all the videos on the AFC West, and of course, we will begin next on the NFC North. Jeff Lloyd, the Bet Canada channel. We'll talk soon.